Hey guys, it's Leah and welcome back to my channel. Today, as per the title, we're going to be reviewing Dark Phoenix, the final installment in Fox's X-Men franchise. Before we get started, if you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe down below. Also, make sure you stick around for the end of this video where I tell you whether X-Men Dark Phoenix, the title X-Men isn't even the beginning, so Dark Phoenix is worth it or not. Boy, 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 boy. Do I have a lot to say about this movie. So I'm sure by now you guys have seen the Rotten Tomatoes score. 22% last time I checked, which was about 2 hours ago. 22% on Rotten Tomatoes. Awful reviews by the critics. Dark Phoenix is being dragged through the mud and also dubbed as the worst X-Men film that Fox could have made. As we all know, this is the last film because now Disney owns Marvel, in turn now owns Fox, which also owns the X-Men franchise. So I'm sure this won't be the last. I'm sure eventually we'll see a reboot due to this ownership, but this is the last solely Fox. Of course, they worked with Marvel as per usual, but this is the last we'll be seeing. Also wrapping up the franchise. It's really hard to say wrapping up the franchise when the timeline, which don't even get me started on, but I suppose it's the first thing I'm going to talk about that really irritates me, and I'm sure it irritates you guys as well, is the timeline of this film and of X-Men in general, all over the place. I knew going into the film I was just gonna accept that fact, accept the fact that, supposedly in 8 years, James McAvoy is going to turn into Patrick Stewart and is going to somehow look like an old man. So we're just going to take that for what it is. I already accepted it going into the film that the timeline was complete rubbish, and we're going to move it over here, shall we? Now, a lot of people that are reviewing this film are angry, hate it, trash, worst of the worst. We were supposed to be getting a makeup for Last Stand, essentially. Like, this was supposed to make up for it type thing. Jean Grey and Dark Phoenix, it was supposed to be great. I'm not angry. Like, I don't think that this is a garbage film, especially with, I don't think it is deserving of a 22%. That is to say the film is a complete wash-up and has absolute zero quality to it or zero moments of quality. So I wouldn't say that. So maybe it's not, the film is not garbage. The film maybe is recycling. A step above your average dumpster garbage, has its own bin and everything. I wouldn't say it was a complete wash-up. There was a lot of things in the film that were all right, but also it just feels like no one really cared. It feels like it was kind of like, this is our last stand, pun intended, from Fox. One of the great things I do want to get out of the way is we have a great cast, undeniably so, and we have great qualified actors. James McAvoy, for example. Great, amazing. I rarely have anything bad to say about James McAvoy, really, but just because a film has great acting does not mean that it's going to be a great film, unfortunately. Great acting can only carry a film so far, and I think my biggest issue with this film is that it didn't seem like the end, like for the end of a franchise. It felt like they were trying to make us acknowledge that it was the end. There was a lot of build-up, there was a lot of, you must care about these storylines and what's going on with these characters, but there was no delivery. And obviously so, if you take a look at the messy X-Men franchise in general, there's nothing they're acting like they put so much into these individual characters played by these actors in this specific storyline. I'm not talking about just how many X-Men film there are, or, you know, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm just talking about this specific storyline with these specific people. They're acting like, and even in this movie alone, it was supposed to be the end of an era. And I felt like this so much so, even towards the end, where they were being so dramatic about it, and they were like, oh my gosh, like, you must feel what this music is trying to make you feel. Like, you can't just, I'm sorry, but you can't just play your movie track louder and louder and louder and hope that it covers up the rest of the film. I'm not going to do any spoilers, but there's a moment where a very important character dies, and it just seemed like everyone was like, oh, we care, we sad, oh no, like, type thing. And I think what bothers me the most about Jean's character as the Dark Phoenix is, while this film sticks very closely to the comics, which was kind of like their redemption from Last Stand, it makes no sense, like, plot and structure-wise. And there's not really as much development as they're trying to make it seem in Jean's own character. She's just, the entire time, it's just a flip-flop, flip-flop, flip-flop between, like, why do I have these things? What's going on? And angry, angry, angry. And then more of like, oh no, what did I do? And Professor X's character the whole time is just kind of like in denial, which I understand he's supposed to be, but that's pretty much all they use him for. And he's just kind of like, I don't know, like, you know? And then not to mention, they take certain characters, again, I'm really not going to spoil anything, they take certain characters and totally make them people that they're not, like, or characters that they're not. And I was just not okay with that. And, you know, one of my biggest issues actually is, did we not in Apocalypse see the Phoenix? You know, and then this film starts off with, which, you know, it started off all right, actually. I quite liked the beginning. You know, the X-Men were well liked. I understood where Professor X was coming from with this whole being seen as superheroes light, and then we're told, like, this is how Jean gets the ability of the Phoenix. This is how she becomes the Phoenix, essentially. But then there's this whole, like, Jessica Chastain's character was a complete wash-up, in my opinion. Her character, like, I get that they're trying to basically, she's trying to speak in Jean's ear to harness her power to somehow destroy the world, which apparently this small event was even bigger than anything previous that we'd seen. And with one flip of the switch, everybody hated all of the mutants and were completely being overdramatic, in my opinion. But Jessica Chastain's character didn't matter when it comes down to it. And this is something I didn't really realize right away until we got to the end. And of course, the third act is marginally better, which it should be if you rewrote it and you fixed things. But the third act was marginally better, and, you know, of course, until you get to the end. But marginally better until you realize that, wait a minute, the entire premise of this film doesn't really matter, so to say. Jessica Chastain, you could just kind of take her out, although her acting was great, and I think was actually one of the better parts of the film. Again, acting, great. But her character just didn't matter. They didn't really tell you who she was. They didn't go into it, which, you know, is important, whether you know or not, or whether you know what's going on or not, whether you know the X-Men, whether you don't know, whether you follow the comics or anything. It's important to a film and important to plot development for there to be reasonable cause for you to care, I guess. I don't know. It just really seemed hollow. It seemed like it was hollow in a pretty packaging. I saw it in IMAX, so even more pretty looking packaging. They had so much time to, you know, like I said, I don't think that I think that's the best way I can describe it. Dark Phoenix was really hollow. It wasn't like it was bad or horrible. When you're in there watching it, I wasn't like, my God, I need to get out of here. But it by no means felt like when it ended, it did not feel like closure or the ending of a franchise or the ending of a group of films at all. Like, it ended and I was kind of like, this seems like a second installment or like a first installment or like a, not a finale. So I think I'm done ranting. Now we're at the part that some of you have been waiting for from the beginning of this, whether I tell you if it's worth it or not. And guys, X-Men Dark Phoenix, I don't know. I'm just as confused as it is, because part of me is made to feel, because of the way that movies are, that, if this is the end of this specific, and I know that they're gonna reboot it and there's gonna be more film, but if this is supposed to be the grand finale, and there's a lot of things that happen regardless of timeline that are important, part of me makes me want to say go see it. The other part of me is like, this was a hollow film, so I don't really care, like, type thing, because I felt like they didn't really show that they cared, which is a really hard thing to say. Like, I'm torn. I definitely don't think it's deserving of a 22%. I would put it more in like a 70, maybe, which is not great, but it's not a 22. If I really start delving into things, maybe it would teeter a little bit on that, but X-Men Dark Phoenix is a see it if you want to type thing. If you're not really into X-Men or you've been disappointed before, wait. But if you want to see what's going on and what everybody's talking about, I definitely don't think that you'll sit in the theater bored to tears. There are some really good moments in there, especially the third act. I really quite found some parts in there that I enjoyed. So there are some enjoyable moments, but it's just not what I think we were expecting by now, because I feel like, especially with superheroes and even Marvel, has come such a long way and set such a standard that it's a little hard to get around this. I feel like if Marvel hadn't come so far, or superhero films in general hadn't come so far, then it wouldn't be as big of a letdown as everybody is feeling right now. I think that everybody would have just been like, oh, okay, cool, great. But now we have such a standard and such an expectation, and I think that's why a lot of these films fall so hard. That's going to be it for my review today, guys. Make sure, if you haven't already, that you subscribe to my channel down below and check out some more of my videos. Let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure to give a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.